I mean, everything that guy touched turned to platinum and often 10 times platinum. And Joe Elliott's voice comes in with a hold on to your hat, hold on to your heart, and hold on you better. Because Social Disease is a fucking travesty, which they would lose and lose royally when Hysteria came out. If it came out in 1983, it means that fucking Michael Jackson is the guy who kept it off. Some of the lyrics, I'm kind of like, ah, fuck. Now you're getting into the real shit category. But now I look at it and it's kind of fucking cheesy. You know, Rick Allen, man, with 2 arms, he sure was a blast. That chorus is something that never leaves your head. You know, I can take it or leave it. And so I still hold that song near and dear to my heart. You should have fucking given it to Aerosmith. And when you wake up, are you gonna love yourself or are you gonna hate yourself? You know, I remember what it was like. I came here to do 2 things, chew bubblegum and talk hair metal. And it looks like I'm almost out of bubblegum. Welcome to episode number 7 from the Hair Metal Haven. Today we're going to do something different, something that I am going to call Hair Metal Heavyweights, where we are going to pit 2 of the biggest albums of the hair metal genre head to head. And today we're going to start off with 2 of the biggest albums of them all, Bon Jovi's Slippery When Wet versus Def Leppard's Pyromania. There's a reason that I chose these 2 albums. I kind of feel like Def Leppard and Bon Jovi, their careers kind of followed a similar trajectory. They both released 2 albums that sold fairly well, but nothing that was going to make them superstars of the hard rock or hair metal genre. Bon Jovi's self-titled debut had a hit with Runaway. Then they had an album called 7800 Degrees Fahrenheit that sold reasonably well. And then they exploded with album number 3, Slippery When Wet. Def Leppard similarly had an album in 1980 called On Through the Night that I don't think did very well. That was really popular with the new wave of British heavy metal, fans of bands like Iron Maiden. Then they had the phenomenal High and Dry that, again, sold reasonably well. But then they exploded with 1983's Pyromania. Then both of those bands, following up Slippery and Pyromania, come back with 2 more huge albums, Bon Jovi's New Jersey and Def Leppard's Hysteria. But let's focus on those first 2 huge albums from each band. We're going to put them head to head. And here's how we're going to do this. If you've seen my videos in the past, you're going to be familiar with the format. We're going to go through every song on each album and rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. We're going to use those numbers to decide who's going to win the first hair metal heavyweight battle, Pyromania or Slippery When Wet. Stay tuned to find out what happens. I must break you. Def Leppard's Pyromania came out on January 20th of 1983 and was produced by the producer that you wanted to get if you wanted an album to explode in the 1980s, Robert John Mutt Lange. It is certified diamond in the USA with certified sales of over 10 million copies. It reached number 2 on the Billboard charts, which, if it came out in 1983, means that fucking Michael Jackson is the guy who kept it off. As I go into the song rankings, I want to give everyone a better idea of how the rankings work. So I'm going to rate each song on a scale of 1 to 10. So to me, a 10 means that I still put this song in playlists for when I work out or for when I'm driving. I mean, I still actively seek that song out and I still love to hear it. Okay? And a 9 and 10, that's what I'm going for. 9s and 10s, I still look for that song, I still play it regularly. If I give a song an 8 means that, man, I loved it back in the day. I listened to it all the time. Nowadays, I maybe don't seek it out. It's not like I avoid it, but maybe I don't put it in my workout playlist, but it's still a song I really like to hear. A 7 and a 6 is a song that I still like. I probably really liked it back in the day. And today, maybe some days I listen to it. Maybe some days I don't. I still enjoy it, but it's like, I can take it or leave it. When you start getting into the 5 and below, now you're talking filler, okay? A 5 and a 4 is a song that, hey, maybe I liked it back then, but now I look at it and it's kind of fucking cheesy, okay? You get into your 3s and 2s, that I probably didn't like that song back then, and it's even worse now. Now your songs that are a 1, now you're getting into the real shit category. If I give a song a 1, you're getting into your Eddie Murphy Party All the Time, Gerardo Rico Suave, and anything by Clay Aiken. Pyromania starts off with Rock Rock Till You Drop, and this is a song that I don't even know if it was released as a single. If it wasn't, it should have been. It's got this kind of haunting intro with this, kind of an awkward beat that all of a sudden it starts filling in, and then you get into your regular drums and your catchy guitar, and Joe Elliott's voice comes in with a hold on to your hat, hold on to your heart, and hold on, you better. I got to give this song a 10 out of 10. Slippery When Wet starts off with Let It Rock, and here you get a real idea of one of the main differences between the two bands. Bon Jovi has David Bryan, the keyboard player, and keyboards are pulsing throughout this entire album, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I know in hair metal and heavy metal circles, keyboards do get a bad rap, and sometimes that's deserved, but Bon Jovi, and especially Slippery When Wet, use keyboards to their advantage, such as with the intro to Let It Rock. I don't know that Let It Rock reaches a 10 out of 10, but I'm going to give it a 9. Pyromania song number 2 is Photograph, and fuck. 10. I love that little guitar that you get before the actual riff comes in. For some reason, I look forward to that. It's one of my favorite parts of the song. I don't know why. One of the catchiest riffs of the entire hair metal genre. One of the catchiest songs of the entire hair metal genre. One of the perfect songs on any album. Photograph, Def Leppard, easy 10. If I could go higher, I would. Slippery When Wet song number 2 goes to You Give Love a Bad Name. And there's this part of me that wants to say, oh, it's kind of cheesy. But God, even today, so I've taught high school English for the last 12 years. And this is a song that even my students, when they hear that first a cappella shot through the heart, everybody knows where it's going. It's still supremely catchy. It's one of the funnest rock videos of the 80s. So I have to give it a 10. Song number 3 on Pyromania is Stage Fright, and I love Stage Fright. Here's a song though where I do feel like the verses beat the chorus. It's a good chorus, but those verses are so heavy and catchy and just make me want to get up and jump around like a fucking idiot, and sometimes I do. So, but the chorus doesn't quite match up, so I'm gonna give it a high 8. On certain days, lower regions of a 9. Song number 3 on Slippery When Wet is the almighty Living on a Prayer. I'll be honest, I have to give it a 10 out of 10 because there's a lot of people who would say that Living on a Prayer is maybe the most recognizable and maybe the most popular song of the hair metal genre. My hesitation to give it a 10 is just because it is so overplayed. I do a lot of coaching, basketball, and I go to a lot of my students' games, volleyball, football, and whatever. And this is a song that is still played at high school games, 40 36, I don't teach math, years after it was released. So you can't deny its historical significance. That chorus is something that never leaves your head. Everybody in the world knows it. It's a 10. Song number 4 from Pyromania is Too Late for Love. I think it was released as a single. It's got one of those kind of haunting introductions and then kicks in. It's not a ballad, but it might be the closest thing you're gonna get to a ballad on Pyromania, and I'll probably talk more about this later, but that's one of the big differences between Slippery and Pyromania. Bon Jovi is all over ballads, and Def Leppard was still holding on to that heavy metal term, which they would lose royally when Hysteria came out. But Too Late for Love is still a phenomenal song, really catchy chorus. I'm gonna give it a 9. Song number 4 from Bon Jovi is Social Disease. And here's the first chink in the armor, because Social Disease is a fucking travesty. I was doing research for this video, I found out that, at least if you can trust almighty Wikipedia, and don't tell my students that I said I was using it, okay? But in reading Wikipedia, it was said that Bon Jovi wrote that song for Aerosmith, but decided they loved it so much and had to keep it for themselves. You should have fucking given it to Aerosmith or somebody, because there is another song that was written for Slippery When Wet, a song called Edge of a Broken Heart. It was not put on Slippery. It came out years later on a compilation. I think it was called 100 Million Bon Jovi Fans Can't Be Wrong. And Edge of a Broken Heart is a phenomenal, great rock song. And it should have replaced Social Disease, because Social Disease is just like a venereal disease. You want to get rid of it as soon as possible. Song number 5 from Pyromania is Die Hard the Hunter. And I'm noticing as I'm refreshing my memory on this album, they have these really cool and interesting introductions. Like, they'll start off kind of slow with these periodic drum beats and this eerie guitar before it just kicks in. And you know, almost every song on this album is super catchy. It's easy to see why it sold 10 million copies. Die Hard the Hunter, I'm not going to give it a 10, and I wonder if I should give it, I'm going to give it a 9. Okay, song number 5 from Slippery When Wet is Wanted Dead or Alive, and Wanted Dead or Alive is one of my favorite songs of all time. And I know you're probably thinking, after Social Disease, is there any way that Slippery can keep up with Pyromania? And if it does beat Pyromania, it will be because of a song like Wanted Dead or Alive. I still love this song. That haunting, cold, acoustic intro from Richie Sambora. I love the lyrics, the analogy of the rock star versus, you know, the cowboy who's traveling from town to town, and it's a weary road, and you never know where you're gonna lay your head or what you're gonna drink the next day. It's having deployed with the military twice to Iraq and Kosovo. I really relate to that song, to travel into all these new places and never knowing how people are going to look at you, and if they're going to love you or hate you. And when you wake up, are you going to love yourself or are you going to hate yourself? And so I still hold that song near and dear to my heart. And I would give Wanted Dead or Alive the highest score that I can give a song, and one of my favorite songs of all time. So easily a 10. Pyromania song 6 is Foolin', and it's got one of those eerie eerie, kind of spooky intros. When the song starts, you feel like, oh, here's a ballad, but then it kicks in and it's not a ballad. What it is, one of the catchiest songs on the album, one of the catchiest songs of 80s rock, and it's a 10. Song number 6 from Slippery is Raise Your Hands. And here you get it. You forget now because, look, I probably haven't bought a Bon Jovi album. I think I bought the first couple even after Crush, the album with It's My Life. And because I'm kind of a completist. If you're a band that I loved in the 80s, chances are I buy everything that you put out, even if it's an album that I know I probably won't listen to. I'll be honest, I have maybe listened to Warrant's Louder, Harder, Faster once, but I will probably always buy every Warrant album that comes out. But Bon Jovi has lost me over the last few albums. I know John wants to move in a different direction with his music, but the point I'm making is that Bon Jovi used to rock. And Raise Your Hands is such a perfect example. That's a super heavy and fast guitar riff that starts off with Raise Your Hands. And, you know, you're reminded, man, Bon Jovi used to be all over the rock magazines. I mean, people were putting them, you know, by Guns N' Roses and Iron Maiden and Skid Row. And it's easy to forget that. So, you know, while I kind of frown upon Bon Jovi these days, hey, it's no wonder that this album was as big as it was, and that Bon Jovi was one of the biggest bands of the 80s. And yes, they used to rock. Raise Your Hands, I'm going to give it a 9. Song number 7 from Pyromania is Rock of Ages. And man, from that goofy German thing that Mutt Lange says at the beginning, to one of the catchiest guitar riffs. And here's I like it when artists know when to let the guitar riff breathe. Like in this song, you'll notice that you only hear the guitar on the chorus. There is no guitar in the verses, and it just it makes that song bounce because we're just counting on the drums and the bass. And then the chorus comes in and there's this kick-ass guitar riff. One of my favorite songs on this album. Mutt Lange, what a producer. I mean, Jesus. You go from Bryan Adams' Reckless to Foreigner's huge albums to Def Leppard. I mean, everything that guy touched turned to platinum and often 10 times platinum. So Rock of Ages, 10, easy. Without Love from Slippery is song number 7, and it's the first real ballad. Wanted Dead or Alive to me is a ballad, but this is the first like love song ballad on the album. And I know I loved it back in the day. So when I listen to it now, I still really like it. Some of the lyrics, I'm kind of like, fuck, that's a little cheesy. But for the fact that I loved it back in the day, and most of it is still very catchy, I still think it's a good solid 8. Song number 8 from Pyromania is Coming Under Fire. Here's a song where the chorus explodes, the verses kind of tone down the tempo a little bit, and then that chorus kicks in. I'm not going to give it a 10. I don't even think I'm going to give it a 9. But it's a solid 8, and part of me wants to say 9, so take what you want from that. Song number 8 on Slippery is I Die For You, which, you know, when you hear that title, you're thinking ballad. It's not a ballad, it's a rock song. And here's a song where, again, the chorus doesn't match up with the verse. The verse is super strong. I really like the lyrics. In a world that don't know Romeo and Juliet is just a great line. But the chorus, that gets a little cheesy. I know I loved this song back in the day. It hasn't aged that well, so it's a 7 because it's a strong song, but it doesn't reach into that 8 range. Song number 9 off Pyromania is Action Not Words, and geez, I mean, this album just explodes with catchiness all over. To me, this is like a great workout song, a great lifting weight song, you know, to get pumped up and get yourself thinking about being motivated. Action, not words. So it's got a great message, super catchy guitar riff. I love it's, you know, Rick Allen, man, with 2 arms, he sure was a blast. Action, not words, I'm going to give it a 9. Never Say Goodbye is song number 9 from Slippery When Wet, and I'm laughing because before I do these, I listen, you know, I go through the song again. I listened to both of these albums in their entirety earlier today. As I do my little rankings, I have my computer here. I play a little bit of it just to remind myself. So Never Say Goodbye. It has one of the cheesiest lines of all time. When he says, remember when we lost the keys and you lost more than that in my backseat, baby. Now, when I was 14, I probably loved that line. And I was 14 when this album came out. But now that line's really fucking cheesy. So, but I know I did love I mean, man, at a junior high dance when this song came on and this song would come on, you were immediately on your feet looking for somebody to dance with. So I know I love that song, and it still is a really catchy, solid ballad. And the whole song isn't as cheesy as that line, but that line, oh. So I'm gonna give it a 7. The last song on Pyromania is Billy's Got a Gun. And I understand where some people say that Def Leppard in the 80s got repetitive, because as I hear this song, I feel like I'm hearing a conglomeration of all the other songs on the album. It's a good song. It's probably my least favorite song on the album. So it's not as if I hate it, but you feel like you've been there and done that. So I'm gonna give it probably a 6, and lower regions of a 7. And the last song on Slippery When Wet is Wild in the Streets, and this is a super upbeat, bouncing rock song. And you might not think, you know, Bon Jovi they really did coming of age songs really well. Songs about, you know, growing up and going through those changes, whether it's in your relationships or your life. One of my favorite songs, not on this album, a song called Blood on Blood from New Jersey, and maybe I'll hit New Jersey somewhere down the line. In fact, it'd probably be a good idea to pair up New Jersey and Hysteria for the same type of video. But they really do coming of age songs really well. And so, there's a line in here that I think is really, you know, and I don't know if Bon Jovi gets enough credit for their lyrics, but this line right here, and the sidewalk soldiers sing the midnight blues while the old men recite their storylines about when I was young like you. I mean, that's a great song. And, you know, now that, you know, I'm 50 right now, and so I can feel that line. You know, I used to be that young kid listening to that and you know, probably looking at old people like they didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. Well, now I'm the old person, and, you know, as a coach and a teacher, you know, I can I look at that line and I look at my students and I'm like, yeah, you know, I remember what it was like. So I really like Wild in the Streets. I don't think it's 10, but it's a solid 9. Okay, we have reached the end of our rankings. I'm not going to add up the numbers because I just go by feel, and you know, you can take the numbers and do what you want with them, but we've rated every song on a scale of 1 to 10, and without knowing the totals, I will say that the best album between Slippery When Wet and Pyromania is Def Leppard's Pyromania. Easy to see why. I mean, both albums are phenomenal. And geez, if Bon Jovi had gotten rid of Social Disease and put in Edge of a Broken Heart, I don't know. I don't think it would have pushed it over the edge, but it would have made it a lot closer. Bon Jovi got close because of a song like Wanna Dead or Alive, and Def Leppard wasn't going to give you that ballad. And I love ballads. A great ballad is a great song. I always look forward to a band that will put out a great ballad or two on an album. But the sheer factor that almost every song on Pyromania could have been a single. There's, the lowest rated song on the album was a 7. I think I gave every other song at least an 8, a 9, or a 10. And to me, that means those songs should have been singles. And every song is catchy. Every song makes you stamp your feet. Every song makes you want to, drink beer in the shower at 10 a.m. I don't drink anymore. Phenomenal album. But really, I wanted to do this as a tribute to two of the most important rock albums of the 80s hair metal hard rock genre, and honestly, two of my favorite albums of all time. So Pyromania is the winner, but I still love Slippery When Wet. Hey, what do you think? What is the better album between those two? And are they the best albums by each band? Or do you prefer New Jersey or Keep the Faith? Or do you prefer Hysteria or High and Dry? Let me know what you think in the comments. So that'll wrap it up for episode number 7 from the Hair Metal Haven. Hope to see you next week when episode number 8 comes out. Until then, take care. Hey, if you like this sort of content, I hope you will like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you're on Twitter, please follow me at Hair Metal Guru for all sorts of random information on this musical genre that we know and love.